Today we're making a patterned landscape from an inspiration photo of a lighthouse. This one has a beautiful sunset with some interesting clouds and a rocky foreground. We're going to look at finding the shapes and lines across the photograph, and we're going to transfer those shapes and lines onto our paper. We're not looking for a great amount of detail, just the general outlines to get the feeling of the landscape, the horizon, the clouds, the angle of the lighthouse. And we're going to transfer those to our paper, add pattern and color. Here I've already outlined it in black Sharpie marker, and I'm starting to come back in and add some patterns. This is a squiggle to simulate rocks. Don't forget to go back in and add some thick lines, some thin lines, those horizontals, those verticals, zigzags. Here's some zigzag vertical lines to simulate the grass. Now on yours, you don't have to try to simulate the exact textures. You can have fun with it. Put some different kinds of patterns in. We're trying to get the feeling of the landscape and not necessarily realistic. So this would be considered an abstract. I am taking the pen and tracing the outlines of what would be the contours of the land. The trees, trying to give some horizontal zigzag to simulate the branches. And then the big tree, just doing some fun diagonal checkerboards with some circles, some crosses in it. Taking this land, following the outline, the contour. I have a big Sharpie marker doing the bottom side of the clouds, coming back in the top side of the clouds with a thin marker, trying to get some depth. This is cross-hatching, vertical, horizontal, showing the contours of the lighthouse. Just trying to get some textures, some depth with the overlaps. The closer you put those contours, the more shape you will have. Starting to color. Don't forget about layering your colors. Just because it comes out of a box one color doesn't mean that's the only color that can fill up that spot. I chose to leave the sky without patterns, so my colors are creating the patterns. You can absolutely go into the sky and add different patterns. Coming back in with different colors of greens, try and show some depth by adding the dark green at the bottom. I like moving around my drawing and not just focusing on one area. Taking these stripes, making dark at the top, show some highlight. Back working on the sky, putting in some of that sunset color. Now I'm using colored pencil. You can use marker. You can just use pen and ink and just make it a black and white. That's totally up to you. These are Prismacolors, so I do have a lot of color choices in my set. But don't forget, you can blend and layer. Make all different colors. You can mix marker and color pencil. It's up to you and your imagination. How are you going to add your personality? Adding some brown to show some depth in the rocks, in the ground, on the foreground. Adding some green for the tree. Because that's the middle ground, there's not going to be a lot of detail. Trying to show some depth in this water. Leave some of the white to maybe show some waves up against the shoreline. That water's going to get darker as it goes back to the horizon. I did use a ruler on the horizon line and the light coming from the lighthouse, because light travels in a straight line. Horizon lines are flat when you look out across the ocean. Last little details, and here is the finished piece. Hope you enjoyed it. Make your own, get creative, and let's make art.